A very warm welcome to another exciting edition of your favorite program, Health Affair on AIT. On the program, we focus on critical public health challenges, issues of women and children with a view to finding lasting solutions. I am your host, Oshuomowa Daniels. Persons born with cleft lips and palate are often regarded as evil and stigmatized in the society. Figures by the World Health Organization (WHO) puts the yearly statistics of persons born with the defect at 6,186 in Nigeria. The challenges faced by patients with this condition, the misconceptions on how they can live a normal life with access to necessary surgical intervention is the focus of today's edition of the program. First, let's bring you reports about recent issues that dominated the health sector on the international and local scenes.
April the 2nd, 2021 was World Autism Day, another opportunity for stakeholders across the globe to call for inclusion and promote care for persons living with autism. Autism is a lifelong neurological condition that manifests during early childhood. Though no known particular cause is responsible for autism, some genetical and environmental factors have been attributed as risk factors by some experts. Undecided about the next line of action to take, Ejo Omobolanle and her son have been caught up in the strike by the National Association of Resident Doctors at the Federal Medical Center, Ibutemeta.
I'm one of the patients in the hospital. It's when we were looking for doctor to attend to us and they now said that the doctor are on strike. We are not happy about that because it's not yet time for us to be discharged. No doctor to take care of us. We are looking up to what the government can do about it.
The situation is not different in other federal hospitals visited by AIT crew, as compliance by members is near total.
We gave an ultimatum starting in January following a National Executive Council meeting, and the ultimatum ended on the 31st of March. And I think it is ample time for a responsible government to respond to the demands. We didn't just wake up one morning and make these demands. These are lingering issues.
It's not fair on the patients and it's not fair on the doctors as well. Because I could remember one of our patients when we informed her that there's going to be a strike today. She's supposed to have a surgery today. She felt bad. In fact, she started crying. These are things we cannot control ourselves.
People are actually tired, and a tired mind cannot actually give its best.
The Minister of State for Health, Olorunimbe Mamora, who reacted to the development during a tour of facilities at the National Orthopedic Hospital, Igbobi, urged the resident doctors to cooperate with the federal government in the interest of patients.
Appreciate what the issues are and everything that needs to be done to ensure their welfare and address the issues raised. Everything in that regard is being done. And I believe that we will resolve the issues and continue to work together in the interest of Nigerians.
Mamora noted that more private sector collaboration was necessary to solve the numerous challenges confronting the sector. The National Association of Resident Doctors decided to embark on an indefinite nationwide strike on the 1st of April after the expiration of a 60-day ultimatum over non-payment of house officers' allowance, request for upward review of hazard allowance to 50% of basic salary of all resident doctors, amongst others. Beyond the psychological trauma suffered by the victims of gender and sex-based violence, sexually transmitted infections and unwanted pregnancies have been major challenges to deal with. It is to change the narrative that some women health rights advocates decided to take the campaign to secondary schools to enlighten students on their rights and tactics of sexual predators.
The 2 days workshop have taught me a lot. Like, I've learned a lot about my rights and my entitlements, not just privileges. I've also learned the difference between gender and sex.
Like for the female students, you should try to be decent, dress decently. You know what we say, catch them young. So they will start from this young age to tackle issues of sexual and gender based violence.
Nigeria has long been facing a gender-based violence crisis, with more than 30% of women and girls mostly affected. For instance, Alimosho local government area has recorded the highest number of cases in Lagos in the past 5 years.
We need reorientation. So, as individuals, first of all, it is our duty and our role to speak to ourselves within our community, within our households, first of all, to ensure that this sexual and gender based violence is eliminated. Now, going to the larger society, we start to educate people, we act as ambassadors, we amplify the voices of people, survivors who have faced SGBV, and then we bring the consciousness of everyone else around us to understand that this is not normal and it needs to be eliminated from our society.
Welcome back. Please sit tight and watch our special report on cleft lips and palates.
Whenever my friends or maybe outsiders used to abuse me or insult me with the way I am, I used to feel depressed. It's not any kind of discrimination. It's not any kind of discrimination.
Grace Okpara has had a surgery to correct her cleft lips. She's waiting for another section for the palate and therapy to correct her speech defect. When she was born 18 years ago, her mother was faced with the temptation to abandon her in the hospital because of the embarrassment she suffered as a result of her looks.
And in fact, when I had the delivery at Ikeja General Hospital, and she was showed to me, I was scared to say, but I encouraged myself. Even my husband, the doctor called him and asked him, "Do you want the baby or we should go with the baby?" My husband said no, that they should not go with the baby, that we want it. And we were given the baby. So caring for her, it was not an easy task. People were like, where did you get this from? And I was saying, well, I was not the one that made the child, that's what I have. That's, I don't know. I just believe that God will make it well for me.
Grace is a lovely child. I think I've been very lucky with her as a patient. My first interaction was with her father, who called me incessantly at a time before we were actually doing orthodontics for cleft patients. And he called me repeatedly to the extent that I actually got quite upset, and because I was on leave. And I said to him, look, you need to go back to the cleft clinic and talk to them. But when I came back from leave, they were still on ground. And I just took to her when she came and explained to Mom that we're going to come and dance at your daughter's wedding. You shouldn't worry too much about it, that we'll get where we need to go. And what I found when I saw her is that she had a bilateral cleft lip and palate. She had a completely collapsed maxillary arch in all dimensions. So meaning right from the front teeth were all the way inside instead of being outside the lower teeth, the upper front teeth. The side teeth were all the way inside the lower teeth, whereas they should actually stand outside. So I knew that I had my work cut out for me, but part of the reason why I got into treating cleft patients is because of the challenge. So I just looked at her as a challenge, and my next issue would be how cooperative the patient would be, because one of the issues we have with cleft patients is that many of them come from lower socioeconomic groups and they have other priorities. And so it's difficult to keep up with them. The parents have been fantastic. Grace has been fantastic as a patient. And we started with expanding her top arch sideways, and we succeeded in doing that. And then we put a complete set of braces on her, both in the upper arch and in the lower arch. And we've continued from there. So we've made a lot of progress in terms of widening her arch. What we want to do for Grace now is to move the top arch forwards. It's actually sitting all the way backwards, which is very usual in cleft patients.
During a recent visit to a doctor friend at the Lagos University Teaching Hospital, LUTH at Idiaraba, I was introduced to another cleft patient, Shedrack. At 36, Shedrack, a graduate of accounting from Delta State University, is yet to find a wife. He has suffered a lot of embarrassment, low self-esteem, and at some point felt like ending it all.
It's my challenge. It all it is. The people they really put me or like the kind of embarrassing. They laugh at me and they make me feel I'm less human. People really don't want to listen to me. After all, I am what I'm doing. Even if I have something meaningful to contribute, they don't, they don't people down me wrong. It's not look down on them too. I know it's not easy. I won't like to you, it's not really, really easy. I focus on the look at the thing. I won't like to you. So I need to be kind to people like us. Because not yet, not running to work, the mind and the hope, not yet. There is no more.
Cleft lips and palate is a congenital abnormality that occurs during the developmental stage of pregnancy. It presents with an opening in the upper lips and may extend into the nose or palate.
Cleft lip and cleft palate, they are birth defects that the baby is born with. The cleft lip affects the upper lip, while the cleft palate affects the roof of the mouth. The cleft lip presents as a gap on the upper lip. There is discontinuity in the lip. You can even describe it as a split, and that is why it is also described as hair lip. It is also called as hair lip because there is a defect in the upper lip, and in the palate there is a hole. Normally, there should be no communication between the nose and the mouth, but when there is a cleft of the palate, there is now a communication between the nose and the mouth. So when the child eats, instead of the food going straight into the esophagus, some of them will go into the esophagus, but a lot of them will now be going into the nose, into the upper airway. So the food will be coming out through the nose. There's a lot of social stigmatization because some people believe that these children, they are evil, or the mother had given birth to the child because of either her wayward ways or because of a curse on her or on her family. So they don't believe that it is something that is naturally occurring, that the baby is born with. So they tend to either hide the children, and some of them even kill the children.
Though the cause of this condition remains largely unknown, some experts in the medical field have identified lack of folic acid in pregnancy, diabetes mellitus, genetic factors, smoking during pregnancy, advanced age of parents, and certain medication as risk factors.
It's common worldwide. It ranges, the prevalence of this particular disorder, that is the frequency in the population, ranges from anything from 0.5 in 1,000 to what we have in Nigeria, which is 1 in 2,000. The use of epileptic drugs during pregnancy, exposure to radiation during pregnancy, excessive alcohol intake, and so on and so forth, or an excessive amount of cortisol, which is your stress hormone in the body. All these things have been linked to the occurrence of cleft lip and palate in babies. But the defect starts as early as 6 weeks in utero, where the processes fail to fuse. They fail to come together. The palatal processes or the lip processes fail to come together and fuse at that stage, and the patient continues to develop, but without that union having taken place. So you want to make sure that you take your vitamins during pregnancy. You try not to take toxic solutions. There are all kinds of agbos out there that people may take, and we don't know whether there's a direct connection yet between them and the occurrence of cleft lip and palate. You want to stay away from having x-rays or being exposed to x-ray radiation during pregnancy. You certainly want to make sure that you don't consume an excessive amount of alcohol during pregnancy. So all these factors that have been pinpointed as being possible causes are things you want to stay away from. And you want to reduce your stress level as well.
Speech defect, dental malformation, feeding problems, and frequent ear infections are common complications associated with persons living with cleft lips and palate. This explains the long list of specialists involved in the management and care of patients.
The mother has problems with feeding. The patient often is exposed to recurrent infections. The way the teeth develop and the ways the arches develop, that is the way the mouth itself develops, the upper arch of the mouth is affected by this particular anomaly.
The care of a child with cleft lip is holistic. It is multidisciplinary because they have a lot of challenges. A child who has a problem with the speech can be restored through therapy. Those who have deranged occlusion, that the teeth are not properly arranged as a result of this problem, they can have access to care. We provide what we call a multidisciplinary care that involves every problem that the cleft child may have. Because the problem a child who has a cleft lip and palate has is enormous. It goes beyond just closing the gap that you can see. As we said earlier on, the child will not be able to eat well because the child cannot suck, because the child cannot feed. He cannot suck, but he cannot suck bottle. The food is going out through the nose. So that one also needs care. We need to beef up the nutrition because if the nutrition is not improved, because the child cannot take in adequate food, the child will not thrive. The child will not be well. The child cannot be able to have surgical treatment. The child also cannot speak well. So you need somebody, a speech therapist that will take care of that. You need the surgeon that will correct the gap, that will surgically correct the gap. You need an orthodontist that will correct the deranged occlusion. You need a nutritionist that will help with the feeding. You need a pediatrician, children's doctor, that will make sure the child is fit and well to be able to withstand surgery, and then to check if the child has other problems, other congenital problems. You need a pediodontist who is a children dentist that will also help with these children when the teeth are coming out. So the treatment is multidisciplinary. You need a nurse that is going to take care of the patient before the surgery, after the surgery. You need a clinical psychologist that can counsel the person, that can improve on their psychosocial well-being. So it's multidisciplinary. You cannot leave one out. Everybody is important. Every treatment is done at a stage. Everything is not done once. You start at 3 months, you do one at 3 months, you do one at 6 months, you do one at about 8 years, you do one when the child is about 18 years. So I would say to complete the treatment can take between 18 to 20 years.
They face a lot of challenges with their speech, and that occurs because of because of the nature of the defect. It affects the palate, and the palate is an important portion required for speech, develop pharyngeal function. But to put it very simply, it affects their palate, and when palate function is affected at birth, speech is also affected. And so there are a lot of things that are done from when the patient is born to when the patient becomes an adult to address speech in particular, in addition to all the other defects or the other challenges that these patients have at every stage or point in care, every milestone: birth, early primary dentition when the child is about 7 to 8 years old, early adult dentition when we have to arrange their teeth, and even also early primary dentition when we have to help them with their speech. There is care that can be provided to correct whatever anomalies or challenges the child will present with. And so there's hope. We have many of our patients who we've been treating from when they were children. They become successful adults, integrated in society, doing and achieving great things. So it's something they shouldn't worry at all about.
There are some that don't have the speech problem, like some of them that don't have opening at the roof of their mouth, which is the palate. Some of them don't have that speech problem. They speak well. But some that have that, the lip and the palate together, they usually have speech problem. Even some with the lip also, but not all.
From research, one in every 940 children in Nigeria are born. In other countries, one in 700, one in 1,000 children are born, depending on if you're an Asian, if you're Black, African, and it varies. But it is a deformity that you don't acquire as you grow, but you are born with it. If people are aware that this deformity is just like any other deformity, people should not be stigmatized. They should not go through trauma because of it. And bearing in mind again that the solution is right here in our doorstep. It's not that they have to fly abroad to get treated. No child continues to suffer. No person, not even just child, no person, child, adult, male, female, irrespective of your race or religion, continues to suffer because of cleft.
Because of the stigma, especially that is attached, it's not something we can afford to just gloss over. So we encourage the media to keep on being the voice of this particular group of persons so that Nigeria can be a better place. It is their right. Every Nigerian has a right to good health.
Don't look at your baby that has a cleft lip and palate and feel my life is finished or this child's life is finished. No, it is not. There are many patients out there that are doing well, thriving well. It doesn't affect their brain function. It doesn't affect their ability to move, their ability to think. Find a center, register your child, and get the help that you need.
Drawing from experts' opinion so far, people with cleft lips and palate are indeed normal human beings. They can have a normal life with relevant support and a society devoid of stigmatization. On our nutrition segment, we preach the message of eating right to stay healthier. The focus today is on carrots.
The carrot is a root vegetable, usually orange in color, though white, purple, and other varieties of colors do exist. People have been eating carrots for over 5,000 years. The plant, according to researchers, originated in the Middle East and Afghanistan. Carrots was originally cultivated for its leaves and seeds. Carrot is a nutrient-dense root rich in antioxidants, fiber, beta-carotene, other vitamins and minerals. Consumption of carrots is good for vision, promotes hair growth, weight loss, regulates blood pressure, lowers cholesterol levels, and helps eliminate toxins from the liver.
On Health Affair, we'll give you a holistic approach to health education and information. So come with me to our clinic for tips on healthy living. On our perception segment, we give a voice to your opinion on the way forward for the nation's health sector.
We have the best doctors in the world. What do you need to build a hospital? You have land, we have land. You have a building, the building materials are in this country. And then you buy some equipment, which we can get, and you can do a deal and replace them every 5 years as new technology changes. And you have the population, and you have insurance to pay for it. So really, if we don't have a great health sector in this country, that must be the most incompetent part of anybody in office.
Welcome to our Know Your Instrument segment, an aspect of the program that focuses on first aid and the benefits of different medical instruments.
A medical plaster is an adhesive strip of material for covering cuts and wounds. Plasters come in 3 primary types: the washproof, fabric plasters, and blue plasters. Plasters are an essential item in all first aid kits, so go and get one today.
This is where we wrap up the show today. Please join us same time next week for another exciting edition of the program. I remain your host, Oshuomowa Daniels. Remember that your health is the greatest asset you require to achieve all other things. Please pay attention to it.